All right, we're going deep today, folks, into a world of barbarians and magic and, those Bizarrians.
Yeah.
We're talking Golden Axe this time.
Golden Axe.
You know, even if you've never played the games, you've probably at least heard of Golden Axe.
Oh, for sure. It's one of those names that just sticks with you. Like, it just conjures up these images right away. That classic arcade beaten-up feel.
Right.
You're thrown into this, like, gritty Conan Barbarian-style fantasy world, but, like, with a fun twist.
Yeah.
Almost, like, whimsical, you know?
Okay, so swords and sorcery and bad guys galore. That's a given. What makes Golden Axe stand out? More than just, like, another button masher.
Right.
I mean, let's start with the original game.
Yeah, let's go back to the roots.
That iconic trio of heroes. You can't talk Golden Axe without talking about those three.
Absolutely. You've got your, like, classic barbarian, Axe Battler, who more than lives up to his name.
He does.
Then there's Tyrese Flair, the Amazon warrior.
Oh, yeah.
Bringing that fire magic.
Yeah.
And, of course, you can't forget Gilly's Thunderhead.
The dwarf.
The axe-wielding dwarf with a bit of a sharp wit to him.
He's got some great lines.
Oh, yeah.
An axe-wielding dwarf. That's awesome.
So good.
And they're all on this quest for revenge against Death Adder.
Classic revenge plot. You gotta love it.
Yeah, but with magic potions. And those little blue thieves.
Oh, don't even get me started on those little guys.
Always trying to steal your potions.
So annoying, but, I kind of love them too.
Yeah.
They add to the charm. But honestly, I think they actually point to something important about Golden Axe. It's not just, mindless brawling.
Right.
Which a lot of beat-em-ups were back then.
Yeah.
The magic system adds like a layer of strategy, something a lot of other games in the genre didn't really have.
Yeah. Each character has their own spell. So you've got Axe Battler with his earth magic.
Right.
Nyrese has fire.
Naturally.
And then Gilius, he brings the lightning.
Lightning.
You power them up by grabbing those potions. So suddenly it's not just like whack, whack, whack.
Yeah, exactly.
You're thinking, okay, which spells do I use? When do I use them? It's that magic meter management. How do I make the most of this?
You got to be strategic. And the spells aren't just different colors either. Yeah. They feel different. Like Axe Battler, he's got those earth tremors.
Yeah.
Tyrus, those huge fire blasts. And Gilius, well, his lightning attacks can just clear a room.
Oh, yeah. It's satisfying.
Super satisfying.
And, we can't talk about Golden Axe without talking about the visuals.
Oh, yeah. The spectacle.
I mean, come on. Who doesn't love summoning a giant dragon?
Right. Roast those enemies.
It's just over-the-top arcade fun.
Pure fun.
And speaking of over-the-top, we've got to talk about the Bizarrians.
The Bizarrians.
Those rideable creatures.
Okay, so the Bizarrians are where things get really interesting. They add like a whole new dimension to the gameplay,
Yeah.
You've got your cockatrice, knocks enemies back with its tail.
Oh, yeah.
Screaming, firing dragons.
Yeah, those are awesome.
They're not just for show either. Like, they actually give you combat advantages.
Yeah.
And, I mean, come on. They're just plain cool to ride.
Oh, they're so cool.
It wouldn't be Golden Axe without them, right?
No. Totally. And the thing is, Golden Axe didn't just stop at one game.
Oh, no. Not even close.
It spawned like this whole world of sequel and spin-off.
A whole universe of Golden Axe.
Yeah. Some stuck with that classic formula.
Right.
And others, well, they got a little weird. So first you got Golden Axe 2.
Golden Axe 2. Now that's a classic sequel.
Yeah.
They stuck with what worked,
Yeah.
Sim heroes, new bad guy this time.
Dark Gold.
Dark Gold, yeah.
Yeah, and of course you got snazzier graphics, some cool new spells.
Oh, yeah. The graphics got a nice upgrade.
Yeah.
But you can definitely feel that core Golden Axe vibe.
Okay, absolutely.
It's like comfort food, but like, for your thumbs.
Nice. But then there's Golden Axe. The Revenge of Death Adder.
Oh, yes. Revenge of Death Adder.
This one lived in the arcades for a while
It did.
before finally coming home.
Right.
But this one's different.
This one, they kind of went all out,
Yeah. New characters, including a giant.
A giant named Dona.
Oh.
I mean, talk about a visual upgrade.
Yeah. And they added branching paths, too.
Yeah, you could actually choose which way to go through the levels.
Yeah, which adds to that replay value.
Oh, for sure. And speaking of upgrades, you can really see how Sega pushed the limits of the arcade hardware with Revenge of Death Adder.
Oh, yeah.
Like, the detail on the characters, backgrounds, everything was just so much more dynamic.
Okay, so now we have to talk about Golden Axe 3.
Golden Axe 3, the mysterious one.
The one that, for whatever reason, stayed in Japan.
I know, right? It's a shame because this one was arguably the most innovative of the sequels in terms of gameplay.
Okay.
Like, they added character-specific moves.
Oh, really?
Yeah, super attacks.
Nice.
And a bigger focus on, like, exploration. But Sega, for some reason, decided to keep it under wraps.
It's so weird, isn't it?
It's almost ironic. Like, this was the sequel that pushed the gameplay the furthest,
Yeah.
but it never got a chance to really shine on a global stage.
Yeah.
Maybe we wonder, like, what could have been?
Absolutely. And then, to really mix things up, you've got the spin-off.
Ah, yes, the spin-offs. Because why not, right?
Yeah, exactly. So you've got Golden Axe Warrior, which takes a page out of the Zelda playbook.
Oh, yeah, the top-down adventure.
Yeah.
That was a fun one.
And then there's Golden Axe Duel,
Duel.
which, went full fighting game.
It's wild, right? How Golden Axe branched out like that. Some of those experiments worked better than others, for sure.
Yeah.
But it shows, that they weren't afraid to try new things,
No.
even if it meant a few stumbles along the way.
Yeah.
Now I'm curious, have you ever played a Golden Axe game? I mean, it's not a perfect series, though, is it?
No, it's definitely got its flaws.
Like, especially when you compare it to some of the other, big beat-em-ups of that era.
Yeah.
It's true that Golden Axe it can be a little clunky at times.
Yeah.
Some people find the controls, especially compared to, like, the smoother games that came later.
Yeah. Like sometimes it feels like you're wading through molasses
Yeah.
just to move your character.
And then there's that lack of a get off me button
Oh, tell me about it.
when you're surrounded by enemies.
It's like you're just stuck there.
So frustrating.
Yeah. And while I do like the music, it doesn't quite have that, that same iconic status as like Streets of Rage or Double Dragon.
That's a fair point. I mean, those soundtracks are legendary.
Yeah.
But even with its flaws, there's something about Golden Axe that just, it grabs you.
Oh, yeah.
The character designs are so memorable.
Yeah.
The world is just so vibrant and weird.
Uh-huh.
And honestly, there's a certain charm to its simplicity.
Yeah. You're like in the game that knows what it is.
Yeah.
And it's not trying to be anything else. It's like you're hacking and slashing skeletons, lizard men, those little creepy hooded mages.
The mages.
It's pure fun. Unadulterated fun.
And I think it's important to remember the context too, right? Like
Yeah.
back in the late 80s, early 90s,
Yeah.
beat-em-ups were still, finding their footing.
Yeah, totally.
And Golden Axe was one of the games that helped define the genre.
Right. Like back then, you mostly had beat-em-ups that were like city-based, gangs and street thugs. And
Right.
Golden Axe was like, hey, what if we throw in some barbarians and magic and dragons?
Exactly. It really opened up the possibilities
Yeah.
for what a beat 'em up could be. I mean, it's easy to look back now, right, and be like, oh, the controls are a little clunky or the gameplay is a bit repetitive.
Yeah.
But you have to give credit where credit is due.
Yeah.
Golden Axe paved the way for some of the greats that came later, like Streets of Rage,
Oh, yeah.
Turtles in Time.
Yeah.
All those classic beat 'em ups owe a debt to Golden Axe.
And it wasn't just the gameplay either.
No, totally.
Like Golden Axe established fantasy as like a legitimate setting for a beat 'em up.
Right.
Like it proved you could have just as much fun fighting wizards and goblins
Yeah.
as you could battling street punks.
And that's something that I think is often overlooked.
Yeah.
The impact Golden Axe had on the genre, like how it actually pushed things forward.
Oh, for sure.
People tend to focus on the, surface level stuff.
Yeah.
The fun characters.
The enemies.
The crazy enemies.
Yeah, but it was doing stuff that no other beat 'em ups were doing at the time.
Yeah. Golden Axe introduced some genuinely innovative mechanics
Yeah.
that had a ripple effect on like every game that came after it.
Okay, for example.
Like the magic system. Revolutionary.
Yeah.
At the time, it was totally groundbreaking.
Yeah.
Suddenly, you weren't just mashing buttons, right? You were making tactical decisions
Yeah.
about when and how to use your spells.
Hmm.
It added a whole new depth to the combat.
And the way they integrated magic into the gameplay, too, it felt so natural.
Yeah, it wasn't just a tacked-on feature. Like,
Right.
It was core to the experience.
You had to manage your magic meter. Like, pick your moments to unleash your spells. It made you think differently about how you approached each encounter.
Exactly. And the Bizarrians, too, right?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, sure, they're fun to ride.
Yeah.
But they also brought a strategic element to the game.
Totally. Like, you had to decide which creature to go for, how to use its unique abilities
Right.
to your advantage. It added a level of, like, unpredictability
Totally.
that most beat-em-ups just didn't have.
And let's not forget about the level design.
Oh, yeah.
Golden Axe didn't just give you these linear paths. You
Right.
had branching paths, hidden secrets.
Yeah, yeah. And you could use the environment to your advantage, too.
Oh, totally. Like knock enemies off cliffs, crush them with falling rocks.
Yeah. It was a level of interactivity that was pretty rare back then.
Yeah. So yeah, Golden Axe wasn't just a hack and slash fest.
No.
It brought some real innovation to the table.
Yeah.
And its influence can still be felt today. And beyond, the gameplay innovations, there's another aspect of Golden Axe that I think deserves some love.
Okay.
The artistry.
Yeah, right.
The pixelated visual style.
It's so iconic. Just as iconic as the gameplay itself.
Oh, absolutely.
Like those chunky sprites, the backgrounds, like the colors, the
vibrant backgrounds, the over-the-top enemy designs.
Those enemies.
So good. It all adds up to this, incredibly memorable aesthetic.
And the music, the soundtrack.
Oh, yeah. The soundtrack. It might not be as, instantly recognizable as some of the other game music from that era.
Yeah.
But it totally captures that, epic sword and sorcery vibe.
Oh, yeah. Those driving melodies, the pounding drums.
Yeah, the little synth flourishes.
Yeah. It all just comes together to create this, really immersive sonic experience.
It gets you pumped for battle, even all these years later.
And the character designs.
Oh, my gosh.
Axe Battler, Tyrese Flare, Gilius Thunderhead. I mean, they're so recognizable.
Instantly recognizable.
Even to people who haven't played the games.
Right. They're archetypes, sure, but they're brilliantly designed archetypes.
Yeah. You can tell so much about their personality just from, looking at them.
Exactly. Their costumes.
Their weapons.
Even
their stance,
yeah.
You just know what they're about. And the enemy designs, too.
The enemies.
Yeah, from, those goofy skeletons to, the hulking giants.
Yeah, every enemy feels distinct.
Yeah.
Memorable.
They're not just generic bad guys.
Mm-hmm.
They're part of what makes that world feel so vibrant and unique. That attention to detail. It's everywhere. It's in the character.
In the backgrounds.
The backgrounds, the sound effects,
It's a game that's bursting with personality. And that's something that often gets lost in the conversation. It's not just about the gameplay. It's about the whole package.
Yeah.
The way it looks, the way it sounds, the way it feels. Golden Axe nails it all.
I totally agree. It's a game that understands style.
It does.
And that style is, a big part of what makes it so enduring.
Yeah, for sure.
It's funny, as we're talking about this, it's making me think about how, Golden Axe has kind of seeped into, popular culture in general.
Oh, yeah. It totally has.
You see references to it in movies and TV shows, even other video games.
Yeah, for sure. It's become shorthand for a certain type of fantasy aesthetic.
Right.
That over-the-top sword and sorcery vibe.
Yeah. It's not even just, the visuals either.
Right.
You hear those heroic melodies, those riving rhythms.
And you instantly think Golden Axe, even if it's been years since you've played it.
Yeah.
It's part of the collective gaming consciousness now.
Yeah. And the characters.
Oh, yeah, the characters.
Axe Battler, Tyrese Slayer, Gilius Thunderhead, they're icons.
They're icons in their own right. They've been parodied.
Yeah.
Homaged.
Referenced countless times.
They're bigger than the games themselves at this point.
It is kind of amazing to think about, isn't it?
Yeah.
A game that's essentially about, punching lizard men in the face.
Right.
Could have such a profound cultural impact.
It speaks to the power of good design, strong characters, and, that timeless appeal of adventure.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head there.
Yeah.
Golden Axe, it's not just a video game.
No.
It's a cultural phenomenon.
It really is.
And that's something worth celebrating.
Absolutely.
But there's one more thing I think that we need to address.
Okay, what's that?
That's been, on my mind kind of throughout this whole deep dive.
Okay.
And that's the issue of, accessibility.
Accessibility.
Yeah, because let's be honest, Golden Axe, it can be a pretty tough game.
It can.
Even for, experienced players.
Right.
Those controls, they can be a bit unforgiving. The enemy AI can be brutal at times.
Mm-hmm.
And that lack of a get off me button,
yeah.
It can be a frustrating experience.
Yeah.
Especially, for newcomers.
Yeah, exactly. And it makes me think about, how we can make games like this more accessible to a wider audience.
Yeah.
Because everyone should be able to experience the joy of Golden Axe, regardless of, their skill level, physical abilities, all that.
I completely agree.
Right.
So, how do we make Golden Axe more accessible?
That's a good question.
But without, compromising, what makes it great?
Right.
What are, some concrete steps, developers could take?
Well, I think for starters, customizable controls would be huge.
Yeah.
Just let players remap the buttons to better suit their needs. That would go a long way, I think.
Yeah, that would make a big difference.
And difficulty settings, too.
Oh, yeah.
Like an easy mode, right? That would give new players like a more forgiving experience, and maybe a practice mode too.
Yeah.
That lets them experiment with the mechanics, master those combos before they like jump into the chaos.
And, for players with like visual impairments,
Oh yeah,
things like colorblind mode, adjustable text size,
absolutely.
those would make a huge difference. It's about making those like small tweaks
The small tweaks.
that can have a big impact on accessibility.
Yeah, it's about making sure everyone feels welcome in
Mhm.
the world of Golden Axe.
Because at the end of the day, that's what gaming's all about, right?
Yeah, bringing people together,
Yeah.
sharing experiences,
Yeah.
having fun.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into Golden Axe, like, what are we left with?
Yeah.
What's the takeaway for our listeners?
It's a good question.
I mean, for me, it's this. Golden Axe, it might seem simple on the surface, right?
Yeah,
But there's like a surprising amount of depth to it.
there is.
It's a game that's both a product of its time,
Yeah,
but also something that kind of like transcends time.
yeah,
It's a reminder that like innovation, it can come from the most unexpected places.
that's true.
And that even like the simplest ideas can have a lasting impact.
I think that's a great point. Like, Golden Axe reminds us that sometimes the most effective formula is just like pure, unadulterated fun.
Yeah,
You don't need a complex narrative
Right.
or, a million different mechanics or cutting edge graphics
yeah,
to create a game that people will like remember and cherish.
yeah. It's about those like core elements,
Yeah.
memorable characters, satisfying combat, a world that like pulls you in.
And Golden Axe nails all of that.
It does.
And while it might not be, perfect,
Yeah,
those flaws, like, they're part of what makes it so charming.
yeah,
It's a reminder of a time when games were like less polished, a little rough around the edges,
yeah,
but full of heart
yeah.
and personality.
And that's why, like, even today, Golden Axe still holds like a special place in the hearts of so many gamers.
It does.
It's a reminder of a simpler time, right?
Yeah,
When arcades ruled the world,
yeah,
and all you needed was a handful of quarters
right.
and a friend by your side to embark on an epic adventure.
And who knows, maybe this new animated series will like spark a resurgence of interest in Golden Axe.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe it'll introduce a whole new generation to the joys of, barbarian brawls, magical mayhem, and those unforgettable bizarrians.
I hope so.
Fingers crossed. And for those of you who haven't experienced Golden Axe firsthand, I encourage you to like seek it out,
Yeah.
fire up an emulator, dust off your old console, or check out the new show.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, like, the best way to understand the appeal of Golden Axe
Yeah.
is to, like, experience it for yourself.
Exactly. See those pixels in motion.
Yeah.
Hear those sound effects.
Feel that controller rumble in your hands as you unleash, like a magical beatdown
Yes.
on some unsuspecting goblins.
So good. So that's Golden Axe
A classic beat 'em up.
with a surprising amount of depth.
Yeah, a legacy that continues to this day.
Absolutely.
And a reminder that sometimes the simplest ideas are the most powerful.
Well said.
Thanks for joining us
Yeah, thanks for listening, everybody.
on this deep dive into the world of Golden Axe.
We'll catch you next time for another epic exploration of gaming history.